Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Sackdown. Today we have the strategic coach of FlyQuest with us, Mithy. First things first. So Thorin recently dropped a video on Reckless. You worked with him in 2020. Was all that stuff true or not?
Jesus.
I'm just
I
kidding. I'm
didn't
just
watch the
kidding.
whole video, honestly. I didn't watch the
I'm
whole
just
video.
kidding.
It was
You don't
like
have. It
painful,
was a joke.
honestly.
It
It
was
was
just
painful
some.
to watch.
It was
Yeah.
just. It was some bullshit at the beginning. I just wanted to start it off with a joke. He sounded like he was gonna answer Yamato. I was surprised. Like.
Yeah.
Let's move on, bro. Let's heal. Let's move on, bro.
Okay, all right. Let's start with the actual talk. So, all the way back when you started your career, you've always been a player that's been, talked about as being like the genius of teams. I remember even in NA, people would talk about like, oh, Mithy is like the shot caller. Oh, this guy knows the game. Even when you joined G2, you were supposed to be the brains, the team that really elevated, or the person that elevated that team. Were you always somebody that just had this like natural knack for shot calling? Did you learn this from somewhere? How did you become like somebody that was considered such a mind within the game?
I think they're two different things, though. Like, I don't think I was a shot caller. Like, I said my piece in some games, but I honestly, like, even to this day, I have a problem of like being able to play and talk at the same time. So, like, during resets or something, like, I'm able to to talk and like add to the plan or whatever. But like, some people can like stream and talk and play at the same time. I just can't. Like, I need to. Like, I just can't. My brain just doesn't do both at the same time. So I was never really like a super shot caller or anything like that. I do think I love talking about league and like how the pieces kind of move together and play together and how to make the most out of situations. And I do think like out of the game, in the teams that I was especially successful in, we did have a good connection on like what we wanted to do, and a lot of that was like outside the game talk, not just by me, but credit goes to me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Yamato, you've been somebody that got to watch Mithy in his early days. How was this to see Mithy work back like all the way in 2013?
I remember like I played with the team also with Mithy like on Heimerdinger's Colossi, and I remember like the meme was always that Mithy's Alistar had modified ulti in the kit because he was like the only Alistar back then. Like if someone like flash pulverize, pulverize flashed, it was like ooh holy shit. And I remember playing with Mithy already back then. Like back then Mithy was. Like had very like there was like a certain stress that I liked in the game, like intent behind how we played because the other people were very chill. And then I also remember like the Lemon Dogs days, but like when 2016 when I was competing against fucking Mithy, like when they did the run with fucking OG and fucking 2016 as well, like Mithy was always on the team to beat those fucking years. It was fucking tough, man. I remember like we had the finals with Splice against G2 and we stuck in one win with like a little severe Tamkench because these champions were like OP and we had like Vladimir top, but otherwise like I was always on the teams that would learn from the Mithy teams when he was in Europe for sure.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of different things about you. One thing that Sven said was that you were the person that could extract the most information from a VOD that he's ever seen. Like for some reason, when you just watch a VOD, most people need like time to process it, like write down what they think, write down current timers, but you would be able to you're able to process all the information really well. Are you just like somebody who just has like a knack for doing that type of review, or like what is it that separates you from other people when it comes to finding relevant information from VODs?
Yeah, I mean, not to say like all the stuff I find is very relevant, but like I do try to reverse engineer a lot of the thought processes that I consider to be like replicable. Like I try to find patterns in the game, and I just try to kind of like put like a script to a lot of the things. Maybe because I played a lot of WoW before, and that's just kind of how WoW is. So it just kind of like translated to the game in a way, And like even when Yamato was talking about like when we were playing against Splice, I remember getting like absolutely destroyed in scrims by Miki. He was like first joined the league. He was like crazy mechanically and stuff. But yeah, like I just knew what was happening. Like obviously it was like a mechanical problem, but I would be able to create a script around like my lack of mechanics and like the matchups that I wanted to play and how I wanted to play them together with Sven, so that we were able to succeed without having to you know do some crazy mechanic stuff. Like it was always like just more so scripted, and it was this kind of like that same mindset, not just from the lane, but also to the whole game. I just try to find like small patterns, but I don't know how other people do it and like how much they extract. Like I just know that I do it my way, and that works for me. Like I watch a VOD if I want to stare down a VOD for 40 minutes and just watch the whole game on live, then I'm not gonna see anything. But if I watch 6 different games for 6 minutes, then think about that for a little bit, and then watch the next timer of the game, like let's say second grubs. Then I watch the build up to second grubs of the next 6 games. Then I just find more information that way, and I can create. I can find patterns or like create patterns in my head, and then try to kind of reverse engineer them and like present them in a way where like there is something that makes sense within all the games. It can also be like champion specific, like how a specific champion is being played in the games that it's winning, that it's losing. It can be like stat specific as well, like like if I see a specific stat that I think is like different or abnormal in our team or in the enemy team, I try to kind of like dig down from that situation. So it's just less like watching to watch, I guess.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's something that Yamato and I always talk about is like when you watch a VOD, you don't watch a VOD to like interpret the entire game. You watch a VOD with like an intent, with like one purpose. Like you're like, I'm just watching for these timers. And instead like of spending all your time trying to like figure out one exact game, you'll try to take 5 different games and just be like, all right, second grub timers, like when is the bot lane basing for second grubs? Like how do they set up? Where do they place their vision? All this type of stuff. And that's like the best way to actually find relevant information from a VOD. How much of your like learning comes from just intrinsically understanding the game and just watching like a team that you're part of play versus like taking a lot of inspiration from the top tier regions, the overlords, so to speak, in LPL and LCK? How do you balance it? Because I've always kind of heard that you're more on the side where you don't need to like watch the best people in the world to do something to understand. But is this actually true? Do you take a lot of inspiration from LPL, LCK? How do you come to your conclusions?
No, I mean there's 100% value in watching any team, like especially like the top teams play. Like at the very high level, it's like a little bit harder to extract stuff because, like for example, the series today, HLE T1, it's like they are both playing like very methodically, very slow. So it's just like you kind of like are gonna get lost in the sauce because it's too hard to really extract like plays from that situation. But like I mean, it just kind of depends. Like I don't know. Like sometimes I like watch zombie mode. I'll just like watch like scrims. I'm watching most of the time zombie mode. Like I just watch the whole game, right? But then it's like maybe like after a week or like after I find a specific stat or like after watching zombie mode for a week, I something clicks in my head and I'm like, wait, I feel like I've seen this before. Like we're fucking up every single grub, or like like something is off, and now I have a objective. Now I can do like the watch 10 games 6 minutes, like, and then kind of like look for a purpose. But there is a balance, right? Like I do just like I call it zombie mode, but you know what I mean. Like I just like sit down and watch a game, and half the time my brain is not even working, or I'm just like looking at like the players play and complaining about how they're like not flashing spells or like doing shit. Like of course I do that. We have so much time doing stuff here, so yeah, like it's just kind of depends. But I do get that thing that clicks in my mind a lot, where especially when things are not working quite right, it's like a lot easier to get that click of like, okay, I've seen this pattern before. How can we fix it? How are other teams doing it? Yeah.
As a follow up, because it's like you have a vast coaching like experience now too. You've worked as head coach. Now you join FlyQuest as the strategic coach. In terms of the big differences, if you contrast both positions, how do you find the current role you're in, and do you find it better for yourself? Can you give us your thoughts in terms of like the change up that happened, of course, mid-year? Because you were also, I believe, assistant coach on 100 Thieves with Reaper 2, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's like whatever. There's no real difference. I mean, the difference is like what the structure of the team's coaching staff is, if that makes sense. like T1 had a strategic coach that was just drafting on stage for them. That was their main job. For us, Nuke is the head coach and he does the drafts. For the most part, like he gets my input and I help with like 4 or 5 bot lane picks or whatever, like remind him on some stuff, whatever I can think of. But I'm like a lot more, like he's a lot more prepared and I'm a lot more on like abstract, like on the flow in case we forget something. And in like, so it's all over the place. You know what I mean? Like every team has a different way they're doing things. It's hard for me to say. I could do the head coach job. I could not. I don't really mind. I personally feel like less stressed, obviously, you know, being an assistant coach, which makes sense. And I do think like because I am like a little bit too much of a perfectionist, I do think like taking away the toll of drafting helps me. Like I'm more on like I do like to like structure like how the practice is done, and like I would I like to kind of like be on like on the manager's ass a little more, and schedule things. Like I think that's like something I like because I kind of know how it feels like to be as a player and like what is good for them and what it isn't. And I do like delegating as well. So like I could see myself being a head coach in that area, but just kind of like as a head coach, you just have to like plug every. I mean, you've done it, right? Like you have to plug every hole that you see. Sometimes there's a lot of holes, and you just gotta manage all of them. And other times, when esports summer was a thing, then you can kind of like choose which holes you want to plug if the team gives you that control. So if we were in esports summer again, yeah, like it would be no problem. But as of right now, I work pretty well with Nuke. Have a very close relationship, obviously, and I like the responsibilities that he takes. Not like naturally he takes away from being the head coach, and I think it really suits me and how I kind of like work with this team. So very happy. Yeah.
I don't know, Dom, how far back you had in mind, because usually we do this like this trip down memory lane. My man has fucking 10 year here, bro. Like this is
Yeah, I mean,
13 years of competition. How
like I
far
was
back do you
thinking.
want to go, Dom?
I mean, I was thinking about. Well, I mean, okay. If you want here, since we're just peeling back the curtain, I was gonna talk briefly about the fact that Mithy got banned. So did I. That's a connection we have. We both got banned as players. I'll probably bring that up. But then also, yeah, like the G2 times, I wanted to talk about playing with Sven. TSM time, definitely wanted to talk about that, and yeah, just
Yeah.
lead into like his journey into coaching in general, because when we were talking about you as a player, something that I guess you were insinuating is that maybe you thought that maybe you didn't think you were bad mechanically, but you didn't think you were like the best mechanically, and you were trying to like find other ways to make the game easier. And I wanted to kind of like dig on that a bit, like how much was your perception, or like how negative were you about your own mechanics, or how did you view your own mechanics in the context of the league? Because obviously Mickey X was like mechanical freak, right? Like he was considered like one of the best mechanical supports in Europe at that time. Did you think that you just weren't as good mechanically as him, or did you just think that like your big strength was the like figuring out how to win the game through lane swaps or whatever needs to be done in order to like avoid these types of like mechanical 50-50s?
No, I mean, I generally felt pretty confident. But I just understand that I'm a human being and that I'm not perfect at all times. And situations that are like super flippy and 50-50 in the sense of like, one bad click is going to lose it all, make it all. I'll try to avoid them unless I'm sure they're going to be good, but especially when I played on stage, the big games, like, how I clicked and how I played, I was very like, I felt, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like a feeling, right? I don't
Yeah.
know how I really was, but like I really felt like confident, like in your face, like I don't care, I'm gonna
Yeah.
like, bait you and make you feel not so confident. Like that's how I felt when I was playing.
Yeah.
But especially during regular season and after playing for a few years, like I was just more so like just going through the reps and just trying to understand the meta, like the champions, the little small details, and just building up for that
Yeah.
for the playoffs, just the playoffs runs.
I feel like for a lot of junglers, most junglers, at least old school junglers, would go through this like transition where you'd come into a league and you'd play like a lot of like Lee Sin. You know, you'd just be you'd want to be the mechanical freak, and then over time you'd see the junglers that had been in for a while, and suddenly it's like Gragas, and like I started playing a lot of Nunu, and it feels like that is generally the path that a lot of people follow in pro league, because it's like, why would you want to create risk in situations where when you play a different type of champion, especially like in the jungle, if you play a different type of champion, you're able to like win the game without risk being associated in the game at all. It's like they can never win almost, if you understand like how to control vision and stuff like that. So I think it's something that is like kind of relatable in a way, because throughout my career I noticed that within myself, that as time went on I just wanted to take more consistent approaches to victory, as opposed to like trying to, just like outplay people because I was better in my mind or something like that. Let's jump to the TSM time. Actually, let's jump to the TSM time, because I think that talking about this Ven point, we can bring that up when you coached him in Cloud9 and stuff later on down the road. So the TSM time, this was obviously like a huge point in your career, and pretty much the way that the story is told is that you really wanted to go to TSM, right? Like you loved like the idea of playing for TSM, and that is why Sven and you decided to go there, as opposed to being in G2. It's like framed as always was a dream of yours, so to speak. And obviously things didn't go as planned. So yeah, I would like to hear from your end what the story was with your time deciding to go to TSM, and then how it all panned out.
Yeah, so in Europe, like since I joined the league, and before I got banned, I had finished like top 2, like I think, well, I finished second like 4 times in a row, and then joined G2 and won 3 times in a row. So to me, on a personal level, like I I just felt very comfortable. Everything was comfortable. Like I was just chilling. Like I knew I was gonna win. I kind of like had it figured out with my teammates, with everything. My life in Germany was like good at that point as well. I kind of, I knew where to go, like how to hang out, how to decompress. Everything felt easy. And I just felt like I had an opportunity to travel across the world to do something that no one else had done, which is like win both NA and EU. And at the time, I'm a very competitive person. At the time, I was in a team with Perks. He had one more LACs than me, and that would have never ended unless I changed teams. And I wanted to do something that no one else had ever done, and try to leave a mark that way. And that's why I was convinced that I wanted to join TSM, because whenever we played finals, like I think we played like a million finals, like as I said, like a few finals, and I always heard the TSM chants. Like at the time, it was going crazy, TSM, right? So it always was a thing for me. And I just thought, that would be my way of like, I never really was into like the the content game and like the streaming stuff, but I always wanted to push my brand forward in a competitive way, right? And for me that was like the right choice to take it to the next level. So
Were
I
there
just told
any
Sven, like that's where I'm at, and if he wants to come, great. If he doesn't, that's fine. But yeah.
Was there any worry about like the competitiveness of the region? Because back at this time, a lot of people considered like NA to be the lesser region, regardless of how Worlds was going. There was a lot of just talk about NA just being like just the worst region in terms of mechanics, and the only reason you'd come here would be for money. Like this was the idea and the connotation around like making this type of move. So was there any like thought about like, oh, maybe it's going to be less likely to potentially do stuff internationally if I end up going to North America?
I had already given up with doing stuff internationally.
Okay. All
So
right.
I mean, it was. I mean, yeah, like that's the truth. I've been internationally. I've had like been in the best teams I could have ever thought of being on. 2015 Origin and 2017 G2, and it just felt like we needed it's just luck to even make it to the finals. And then once you're there, there's a good chance you're getting stomped. And with that in mind, I just thought, like I don't want to live, a whole year just thinking of that international moment, and I actually want to make something of being in the region. And yes, like money was a big part as well. Not because I was gonna get more money going to NA, because that was not the case. Like I don't know if you've heard, but like G2 basically matched TSM's offer. Um, it was just more so that NA was franchising, and EU was not at the time franchising, but they were talks about being franchised. But you know
Yeah,
how
it was
Riot
1
is.
year later.
So yeah, so I wasn't like too sure, to be honest. And I just knew like it was gonna be certain, and I was gonna be going there at the time of franchising, and if that worked out well for me, that would have been, you know, a good move overall. And you know, the region stuff, like if franchising is coming in, that's also gonna mean that competitively there's gonna be, you know, a lot of Koreans moving in, Europeans moving in. So I just kind of wanted to set that precedent and be there from the get-go. So it just made a lot of sense in my heart to go there.
You know, before continuing on the TSM point, because you mentioned that it's like internationally things seem doomed at the time, and in terms of how that connected to your approach in like your C9 years, and even now FlyQuest, you guys took 5 games over Genji. Has it ever like affected your state of mind, or is it just you being like realistic? Because it was kind of a shocking thing to hear from a coach, right? To say, I don't know how that would affect players as well.
I mean, I think it's just objective, honestly. It's not really about being realistic or negative. It's just like about being objective about the conditions that your practice conditions versus the opponents, and therefore, you know, there's a discrepancy in talent. Like, doesn't mean that one of your players would not be able to be as talented as they are, but you know, they're playing in a much better server. They have access to much better practice. So you know, it's like having the US soccer team win the World Cup. You know, like sure, it can happen. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So it's impossible. Perfect. Nice. So back on the TSM point, a lot of the reasons why people said that that you weren't able to find the same success in North America as you found in Europe was because of how much you had to micromanage Mike Young. This was the narrative. Everyone was saying this guy is like having to tell Mike Young exactly which camps to do, like when to base, all this stuff, and you weren't able to focus enough on your own play. Is this true? What is how accurate is this narrative? Was a lot of the struggle of you playing in TSM having to play with a essentially a rookie jungler at the time?
I mean, it was certainly a struggle, and it was very frustrating to play with a rookie jungler. Um, but I also think, like, you know, on a personal, you know, like thinking back at the whole situation, it's like I could have also taken a different approach. Like, and at the time Rakan came out, I didn't pick it up. Um, like I was stuck in like the old ways of League, where like new champions came out and they were like terrible for a long time, and then you like eventually end up playing them. But this time around, like Riot wanted to change something, and the champs that came out are like actually OP from the get go, and I wasn't like picking it up in well enough. Yeah, I don't know, like stuff like that kind of hurt, and yeah, like I wasn't too sure what was going on with the jungle situation. I was never on the same page. I never really was in like in agreement with the Mike Young situation as well, but I just really wanted to go to TSM, so I was like, fuck it. But I was like trying to sell the ex Mithy at the time. You know, he was really good, and I was trying to sell that to TSM, but there was like some personal drama there. They didn't want him in there. So yeah, I mean, it just didn't work out. I could have done better. I could have also, you know, been more professional, or like more um, like more independent in my practice, you know, not rely on like the team doing well, like together, united, all that stuff, and just do my job, do it well, and like kind of move on from that. But that was not my approach at the time. In all the teams that I've been in, it was more about like just getting the group as like working together and trusting each other, and like working through any problem. And you know, sometimes that's very good and it can do really well, and sometimes it's very harmful for certain personalities, for certain teams. So yeah, I guess I didn't really know any other way, and like my competitiveness, I guess, like also made his stay in TSM even worse. You know, so it's hard for me to say, but yeah, like it obviously didn't work out. It was a shit fest, like from the get go. Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to do this on the bus after a long day of working, sweating, and shit? Well, I have. And now I can with no fears of body odors because I use Mando. These are products that, of course, can make you smell in many, many delicious ways. As you know, me and Dom, we smell like Mount Fuji all day, 72 hours, no problems. Sometimes we go outside, sometimes we stream on weekends because we have LPL, LCK, LEC, LTA, LTS South, North. We need to sit in the computer at all times. And it gets uncomfortable when you get smelly. I'm telling you, you're going to perform better in the game and outside of the game if you smell better. Just use Mando whole body deodorant. And I say whole body. You can put that place, you can put it in the armpits, you can put it on your grundle, your sack, wherever you want. It is paraben free. You're going to be safe. A doctor realized, when he was making this product that, BO is just misdiagnosed. And now you can cover yourself in sweet goodness and you can be ready for any situation that you might run into. The confidence comes from the fact that nothing can go wrong. And if you are encountering people because you don't know what's going to happen in the world because the world is chaotic, just know that you can be in those situations smelling good. So what I have for you, our humble Blackdown listener, Mando Starter Pack is just perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. As always, I like the deodorant wipes because sometimes you're on the go and sometimes you just need to slip into the bathroom real quick and be as fresh as ever. And of course, free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack if you use code TSD at shopmando.com. SHOPMANDO. It's like a spelling bee.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe, to balls, to everywhere else with Mando. Just to follow up on that, I feel like a sentiment of maybe not regret, but like a big question that came up in like I was doing summoning inside with Thorin, and we were asked like, what if, what if a roster change didn't happen? And the one that Thorin mentioned was like, if Mithy and Sven stayed in Europe, 2018 G2 would have been you, Wunder, Perks, and Jankos. And that would have been like, that could have like changed the whole kind of direction of European League as a whole, because maybe 2019 would look different and so on. Do you ever look back at like certain decisions you made in terms of the rosters you joined or off-season decisions? And is there a what-if case that that plagues your mind?
Dude, 100%. I made so many dumb decisions. So many dumb decisions. It's actually crazy how fucking stupid I've been and how stupid I will be moving forward, There's just nothing I can do about that. So yeah, of course, what can I do? I just try to learn and not make the same mistake the next time.
So which ones? Can you share some?
So obviously like the one you're talking about, like, yeah, in hindsight I should have stayed. I could have built a legacy in G2, team was half Spanish after all. Could have probably transitioned into coaching in G2 and like just made like a legacy there. Which would have been amazing. Then when I went to TSM and the first year went bad, like I had a 2-year guarantee, like actual 2-year guarantee, like contract was crazy. And I was like so afraid that my career was gonna end if I were gonna play in academy for a year that I dropped my guarantee to go on like minimum salary to play in Origin for a year. And then I mean that was like I had a great time there, but then like it also ended up in a like we made like we won Rift Rivals and we went to second place in spring, but then like it went to shit in summer. But like that was like a dumb risk to take when I could have just like had 2 years in a mega contract in NA and probably just like pushed for a green card on a third year, and I would have been like chilling, as well. But like I was not in a good mind space in NA, to be fair. But you never know. Like maybe in academy would have been a lot more chill, and the mind space would have been better. Whatever, that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, like a lot of dumb stuff. And as a coach as well, like million mistakes as well, or like things that I regret, like I could have done differently. I didn't know. A lot of our like this generation player coaches, like we don't, we don't come from a coaching background. We're not raised like, soccer coaches do or something like that. Football, it's football, but just trying to be American here. But yeah, no, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, like of course, like I'm nowhere near perfect. I've never been, and I'm done a shit ton of things where I'm like, oh, maybe I should, approach this situation differently. I should have talked about this differently. I should have, backed up this thing, So yeah, a million regrets all the time, all the time. Also, my brand as well. Like I was like in a wrong space of mind for like half my career because of the G2 move, in terms of like branding and stuff, and I just kind of wanted to focus on the competitive side. But even just leaving Origin was a huge mistake, even though we won three LCSs with the EU. But leaving Origin was a huge mistake, to be honest. It was just at the time I just couldn't handle going second place for a fifth time, and the org wasn't really giving me what I wanted to succeed. So I made the move because I was always on the I'm just a very competitive person,
Sorry, why was it a mistake to leave OG? Because I don't know, at the time it was a really big deal, right? It's like it was like mid-season, but why do you say it was a mistake with the things that you mentioned now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, Peke was my best friend, I mean, he was like there in esports from the get-go with me, and like, kind of like got me to where I wanted to be, and I felt super comfortable with him. We worked out together. We had a good time. I mean, Jesper, like Sven as well, like we were very close. Like that team was just like we were super close. Like, so as like now I'm saying Peke, like I'm actually mean all of them. It's just like the team started rotting a little bit, and it was just not getting fixed fast enough, and I just wanted to get away with it because I wanted to win. And like if you're in our generation of esports, it's like it's really quick. Like the team doesn't work, okay, move on, next one, and then things start getting professional, and you start getting a million viewers and stuff. Then it's like, oh, maybe I should stay, maybe I should build a brand, a legacy, or whatever you want to call it. Like now it's like a lot more understandable to do that, to stay in the same team, to have like a like a player like Caliste or something who just joined, and like have like this whole hype around him, and be in academy for 3 years, now make the main team. Maybe in 5 years we'll see. That kind of stuff is like it was unseen of for me. Like esports generation for me was just about like, you want to just go compete, go win, get some money, and be done with it, and then there's like franchising and this and that. So yeah, I definitely regret not pushing the Origin brand forward as well. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, because when you were talking about the time spending in academy, you seem to make it seem like it would be the end if you weren't a player anymore. Were you not considering like the possible change to coaching? Because everyone always told me that you were a player that would make like the perfect coach, right? Like you were the coach within the team. Anyway, you were like the on stage coach, is how people made it seem. So when you had this 2-year guaranteed contract in TSM, was the thought of like, oh, maybe I just ride out this contract one more year, and if it doesn't work out, I go into coaching? Was that thought in your head, or were you like, no, I just need to keep on staying as a player as long as possible?
Nah, I loved playing, man. Like I loved it. And it just like I just started going into like a negative, like it started really like not being in a good place, and that's kind of why I stopped, because I was like, fuck, like I need to relax. And at the time there was no people like taking a break or something. It was just like, you just gotta keep riding it out. You don't know what next year is gonna lie. So there was no breaks. So for me, coaching was like my break. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can do what I do, but like I don't even have to play anymore. So that's kind of how
No,
I
I mean it
transitioned.
makes
But
sense.
yeah, no, I always wanted to coach. I wanted to coach since like I knew I was gonna be like transitioning into coaching like while I was still in G2. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew I wanted to be there, but like I didn't want to go there tomorrow. Like I wanted to go there when I was 40 years old. Yeah.
Makes sense.
On
I mean,
my
you guys have both played. Like, I'm sure you like. I to this day I miss. I don't know if you guys miss it, but like, don't you miss like being on a big fucking stadium and like
100%.
walking in there and feeling like you're the superstar and
Yeah,
you're gonna play some league and shit like that?
100%.
That shit
I
never
mean,
goes away.
yeah, I think for me, like the thing about my transition, and what I try to tell people is like the money difference in pro playing versus streaming in like 2015, 2016 in NA was absolutely insane. Like the money difference was like life changing money at that point. And I just thought that like, yeah, like it sucks. I would rather be a pro player. I've always thought that I was like, I'm better suited to being in a competitive environment than being a streamer. Like I don't actually think that I'm a good content creator or a good streamer. I just think that for me, like it was something that I could do. I had the capabilities of doing it. And it's something that could like change the trajectory of like, no one in my family's ever made the type of money that I made streaming. So I was like, I should just do it because this will like affect my kid's life. This will affect like my future life. Like it'll just be something that's going to be way better. But yeah, I mean, I always thought that pro playing was something that has like the highest highs in the world. Like it's the biggest like high you could ever experience when you're on a stage and you make a play and people start screaming. I never got to win a championship on stage, but I can imagine that it's even like more of a high where it's like, oh my God, like you just feel like so fulfilled. You just feel like you're the shit. But when I made the decision, like 2015, 2016, like it's like, do you want to sign like a 60K a year contract, or do you want to stream and make, 10 times that? Literally, like that was the transition. So it was very hard to pass that up. Whereas like in 2018, 2019, I feel like it became more of a thing where if you are a really good player in the region, it's better to actually play than to stream. So I think it just depends on like the timing of everything. Like as a streamer, like I never felt like I had like that easy of a choice. I mean, even as like when coaching salaries came out, I feel like coaches are actually generally pretty underpaid compared to like what they can contribute in the space. Like when there was this huge esports summer and people were getting this these huge contracts, it's like you saw players that were like kind of mid getting 600, 700K, whereas like the top tier coaches were getting like 300, So I always felt like there was also like a limited amount of just like resource devoted to coaching, or just maybe like a misattribution of resources from the organizations towards coaches.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, and a lot of it is just business for for the big sharks out there, right? Like first they see that the whole thing has been working without coaches, so why would they have coaches now? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is that they're not hiring like crazy coaches as well. They're hiring like ex-pro players or whatever. Like there is not like some guy with like a CV of like 10 million different things that they're hiring, so they can just kind of work their way around this. That's how it is.
I don't know if you remember this, Mithy, but you and Nuktag were the guys that convinced me to coach. Like back in during the time when basically like season 4, I was in it, like I was like, they had like the last team, I had a team like I was playing with amazing, and then season 4 it completely like dried up, and you guys, this was the period when you guys were banned, and always it was like the team speak until 6 a.m. and be like low-key depressed but play league anyway, this and I was like in a fucking bunker in the middle of nowhere, like commentating in Swedish to like 2 viewers just because it paid money, like I was commentating like LCS and fucking EU LCS as well. And then like they announced pretty much that like coaches would be like a part, like they would be like, oh, you get paid. And then you and Nuktag actually convinced me to go coaching, because it was like the Meet You Makers, because like Mr. Rales, I remember like Super Hot Crew was like you were friendly with them, I believe. You helped them, and you guys were the ones who convinced me to coach. I don't know if you remember this shit. Do you remember this at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I also went to Super Hot Crew. I coached there, where like I was there helping. Yeah. I mean, there was no coach, or I don't know if there was someone else coaching. I don't remember exactly how it was, but like that was like my first coaching experience.
Was everyone coaching this team? Because wasn't like LS coaching this team? Like you were coaching this team? Like I don't know.
LS? I have no idea.
LS was there, but he like couldn't move because of something. I don't remember. I really don't want to open that Pandora's box, because it wasn't a good time between me and LS.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I didn't work with LS.
But you guys convinced me to coach, and then in the end, like what I wanted to segue it into is because it's like the jump from Origin. It's like summer was rough, but it's like jumping into Fnatic as your first gig, and I joined the team after you, so I heard like the chaos that you went through, but in terms of how you prepared yourself and how you like envisioned it, and in terms of how it played out, what can you tell us about like your first coaching stint in Fnatic? Because that was a fucking huge gig to take on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't really aware I kind of just wanted to help, and I thought I could help. So that's where I was at. But yeah, no, it was just hard to maneuver, like the personalities and all that stuff. Yeah, it wasn't easy for me. It just felt like I also felt like a little out of place. I mean, I still do, but I'm getting a little better at it. But it's just like, as a player, you can just it was just so easy for me to just like call someone on bullshit, like just be like bullshit, fuck you, you're being stupid, get your shit together. It was just easy. Like I could always do it as a player. And then when I had like the coach side, it was just like, why is no player doing this? Like if I do it, it's gonna be fucked. But if someone does it, then I can fix it. Like then I can be there to help everyone out and like find a solution. So why the fuck is no one doing it? And then it's like I just got into this like really weird situation of like I need me as the player to do my thing so that I can then coach. You know what I mean? Like so I was missing that, and then like now I've like started to kind of like process that, like you don't always have that, and you kind of like have to do.
Well, luckily, you have Inspired on your team, so there you solved
yeah,
it.
Yeah, he helps, and Bwipo helps too, and
Bwipo
honestly,
too,
like it's a good balance because if we had 5 Bwipos or 5 Inspires, like
oh my god,
it would be fucked,
No, if you had 5 Bwipos, you would have 1 game of scrims and then 5 hours of review per day. Like you'd get 1 game a day, man. Like what the hell?
Oh, definitely, we have a good balance for sure. So credit goes to everyone. But yeah, no, like this team has that. Working with Sven had that as well, so he kind of helped with some stuff as well. But yeah, no, it was like that was like my biggest thing in Fnatic. Honestly, it was just like, dude, like, how is this happening? Like, how is no one calling on BS? Like, so yeah, it was a little hard. Yeah.
I want to dig on that a little bit when it comes to you feeling like you couldn't call people on BS. You think it was just like you couldn't call people on BS as harshly as you thought you needed to, or what was exactly like the issue with you calling people on BS? Because I feel like a coach can still call BS, but it's like you have to do it in a way where you maintain your authority and you're not like attacking the player.
Yeah. So that's where it just prolongs stuff. It just like it just not smooth sailing at that point, and then it's a lot easier for a player to kind of shut down when it's the coach talking about it, whereas when it's another player and they're just like, I'm not fucking practicing unless we talk about this shit, then it's like it's just like a different way of like doing things. Not to say like as a coach, like I definitely could have done it better. Like I said, like I didn't really know exactly like where and how to do it, and how to like put my foot down when. And sometimes it was just like very stressful, and yeah, it was tough. It was tough because I just envisioned it a little different than how it was, and I had 2 rookies as well, right? So they were also looking for the leadership of the veterans, and then the veterans had like different ways of dealing with shit. Bwipo was not as vocal as he was back then, so. And like sometimes, sometimes Bwipo talks and everyone's just like shutting down completely as well, because they're used to him talking, and it's just like, yeah, there needs to be a balance, and sometimes you need to step in, and I wasn't able to. I mean, we didn't do bad in Fnatic, to be fair, with like all the shit that was going on. Like we actually had a pretty, we tried to ride it out and like manage it as much as we could, but yeah, no, it was hard. Like it wasn't easy, but we still finished second. That was the best G2 there was, right? So we finished second, two splits in a row, and we made quarters. Lost 3-2 to the
top esports
first seed of China, or the second seed of China. Yeah, so we
first
literally
seed,
had like a year like we had last year. Yeah, so we had the same year that we had this year against Genji. Same thing. And that was like doomed.
What's what's your takeaway of these like 2-3s? Because I feel like there's 2 different ways people go for it. Either people say like this shows how good FlyQuest really is, like they're able to, or like Fnatic, whatever it is, this is how good this ex-Western team really is because they're able to take this team to 5 games. But I think the other way that some people view it as like, even though it was a 5-game series, the games that are lost were not that close. You know, it's like it feels like when Gen G has like a draft edge or something like that, they really are like able to take away the entire game. So how do you view it as a coach? Like, are you more on the side of like it shows how close we were, or are you on the side of like they're still pretty far ahead if you really look into how the series went?
Uh, like being far ahead, I think they were like better overall. I mean, we obviously like for the Gen G series, like we're talking in general, right? We
Mhm.
lost, season's over. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
that's my mentality, you know. Like I'm not gonna dwell on shit and like think about like how things are gonna change next year, because next year Riot's gonna make the jungle different and make the map completely different, and shit's gonna change, and you know half the champions that are being played are not gonna be played anymore. So who cares? So I don't really dwell on that too much. Um, I like, but in the moment, we knew that overall, you know, man to man, how you call it, Gen G had a higher percentage of winning, and especially if we are playing what they think, what other teams are playing, and what they are playing, we are just not like favored, and statistically, it's just not gonna be good. So we need to throw in some curveballs and try to understand what they want to do, and try to play around that and push our limits as a team to get an edge on them and make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think was
So
done, to be honest. Like a lot of those games, I will say that is the main takeaway I had is like Gen G did look very uncomfortable playing a lot of those games. And
yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is because of the drafts and the champions that they were playing in the games. Let's talk a little bit about your Cloud9 period right after Fnatic, because you joined this Cloud9 team, and the interesting part of it is obviously that you are now coaching two players that you used to be on a team with. So what was that dynamic like instantly joining Cloud9 and then having Perks and Sven be players that are coaching that are like, you know, like under you in position in a way?
It was weird at first. So first it was Rainover who was coaching.
Mhm.
So to me it felt pretty easy when I joined, because I could take that approach of like the assistant guy. I could like befriend like my friends, you know, and like just kind of like be there for them and act as a bridge between all parties. So it felt very natural, and I had a lot of space and stuff to talk and like to discuss things. Um, at times, we had like trouble. Like it was more so the problems between Perks and Sven, that they were like, you know, Perks had come from having all this, you know, success and like this experience, and Sven had like, you know, been away from the G2 era for like 3 years, and you know, towards the end of the G2 era, there was already like some friction there. So when they got back together, it just wasn't really solved, and I do think like Jasper could have Sven could just be a little better at like on the human side of things. But I mean, you know, like that he just needed to mature a little more, and Perks was like getting away with too much BS that Sven was not accepting, and Sven is like very good. Like like the way I see him, he's just very good at smelling the BS. You know,
Mhm.
like whenever someone's playing bad for a lot of periods of time, or like slacking or not taking shit seriously, he'll snap at you instantly. You know, so that's
Yep.
like it's really good to have in the team. Yeah, like there was friction there. So and sometimes, you know, when we had conversations, I don't always have the best approach. Like I don't leave the conversation open ended enough. Like maybe I come in with an absolute instead of like a hey, like I'm thinking this. What do you guys think? I'll be like, you guys should do this, and then it'd be like no, and then it just become a back and forth, you know. So
Yep.
yeah, so that's like kind of what was happening between us. But yeah, like it was easy when I had like Rainover, but then Rainover like was going through something, and he like, you know, stopped being the head coach, and then I was taking on that role, and then there was less of a bridge, and then it became like more like what you're saying, like okay, I have a bigger role. Well, not bigger, but you know what I'm saying. Like I
You
have
have
this
authority
role,
over
and like
them in a way.
yeah, I have authority over you, kind of thing. And then it just like started getting a little harder for me to work around. But I got used to it. Like it wasn't too bad, I would say. I think it was just like just annoying with like the whole not business side of things, like just the way C9 does things. It's like I was like just taking it too seriously. I think Reaper does a better job at that from what I've heard. Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? What does this mean? Like taking things too seriously? What do you mean?
It's like C9 approaches coaching staff, and like coaching and stuff is like a business. It's like, what are our objectives for this week? What are we gonna do this? Like, let's write it all down. How have our progress been working? And it's like very like boom,
Goal
boom, boom,
tracking and
boom,
stuff
boom.
like that. Yep.
Goal tracking, boom, boom, boom. And for me, I'm a player. I'm just like, dude, like this guy is just fucking running it down. Like, there's no goal tracking or anything. Like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Like, this is not professional level gameplay. Like, it doesn't fucking matter what we write in a piece of paper. He just needs to either get his shit together or get fired. Like, legit. So there was like so there was like a disconnect, in some cases with stuff like that, so
Sure.
yeah.
I just because as a follow up, right? It's like you mentioned, it's like the structure part. You don't give a fuck about it too much. But it's like looking at your track record when you were working with other people. That's when you win, right? It's like I believe the spring split you guys won with C9. You went to MSI. 100 Thieves, you guys won a split. FlyQuest now you won in summer. In terms of the contrast, do you just feel do you feel a lot more comfortable in this role? Because you said earlier you did say that you kind of don't care. It's like you easy breezy either way.
I think it just depends, of like the like in 100 Thieves we won. No, we didn't win. No, did we? No, we didn't win in 100 Thieves. And then
Did I get the 100 Thieves wrong? My bad.
No, they won before I came there. And then in
Oh.
C9, yeah, we won spring and we lost summer when I was head coach, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think it's like, well, I don't think it's related. I think it just depends. I do think like it is a lot nicer, like for my headspace, like especially when I'm watching VODs and stuff, and like I have a lot more like free mind when I'm not like thinking about draft too much.
Yeah.
Like like the if they do this, I do this. If that is like a lot more abstract, then I can just be like, hey, like this comp doesn't work against this comp, or this comp like we need engage, or like this,
Yeah.
like if it's then, and I can just criticize that without getting into like the grid. What's the word called? Like the
Nitty-gritty.
Nitty gritty. Yeah. Then it's like then it's easiest for me. That's what I
Yeah.
know from what I've learned of myself, I guess.
Are you tired of browsers that just eat up your RAM and just no customization options at all? Do you feel trapped in a relationship with an old and slow browser because you've just used it for so long and all your bookmarks and settings and all that jazz is just all in that same place and it just feels so overwhelming to move on? Well, no worries. Opera GX has got you covered. You then installed it. Boom, you use the link below. Easy peasy. You press the setting button. Even a bronze player could do this. Are you smarter than the bronze player? Show it. You scroll down. Boom. You find the import bookmarks and settings button. You click it. Choose your browser. Import. You can select the items to import. Boom. All of a sudden, you're up to speed and your new life can begin. Now you can use all of the unique features, of course, of Opera GX. The first one that comes to mind is, of course, the Riot Corner. The Riot Corner is something you're going to unlock if you use one of the mods that are, of course, League of Legends related. You scroll down and all the info that you need in regards to any major event that's going on will be here. The last one, of course, was Worlds 2024. You see the calendar, you see all the matches, you can click them and watch them, and you'll be up to speed with anything that is going on, of course, in the global league landscape. You scroll down, you also see the co-streamers. Look at this handsome devil and this beautiful cat. You click this one, of course. I won't judge you. If you click anything else, maybe I will. Nevertheless, the GX store has a bunch of mods that you can, of course, use to customize your experience. Let me show you how easy it is. Renata Glass, one of my favorite champions, install mod. Let's see how this looks like. Simple press of a button, boom, everything changes. New tab noise, keyboard sounds, the beautiful background of Renata looking over Zone. If for some reason you want to mix and match and you want to make it your own, you can do so, of course, in the mod hub. You just press the interface, you pick and choose, you can do fonts, app icons, themes, wallpapers, you can do sounds, keyboard sounds, browser sounds, background music, anything to, of course, your liking, because Opera GX is truly your browser. So what are you waiting for? Make sure to use, of course, the link in the description below to support the channel and to, of course, also download Opera GX. It comes pre-packed with all of these league features. Make your browser truly, truly yours today. Thank you, Opera GX, for, of course, supporting this content.
I wanted to ask you about the draft point specifically, because that was always the point that people would criticize you for in C9, right? Like when the team would lose, it'd be like, oh, what the fuck are these drafts? Like Mithy doesn't like know what he's doing with these drafts. Like that was always the thing that people would criticize you for. And when you talk to players, all the players have like a lot of respect for you. Like even like Jojo did an interview with Thorin where he was saying that like, oh, I thought that losing Mithy was a big loss. Sven came on our podcast, was talking about like how much information you could extract from VODs. Like all the players normally like really enjoy working with you. Do you think that like that's just not something that you like care to spend that much time into, or it's just like that is not like a strength of yours? Like, well, how do you actually view the draft problem? Is it all just about your like, I guess, how you view the responsibilities of draft, or is it also just like that you just don't necessarily excel in just pure drafting?
No, I mean, I think honestly I'm pretty good at draft. Yeah, like I think I'm pretty good at it. I just think, um, like maybe I get too caught up in some stuff, and I've been learning along the way as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, a lot
like
of
well,
things that people don't understand about draft is like you're just 100% limited by what your players are willing to play and their confidence levels. Like you'll never be able to
yeah.
draft as if you're like, Genji or T1 when you are playing in a team with players that can't play the champions that they can.
I mean, and at the same time, it's like sometimes I'm like, how much can you really do for someone or something? Like, for example, with Jojo, right? Like, I kept telling him, like, he was like, oh, if I pick Yon and Silas, I'm gonna 1v9 every game. And I'm like, if you pick Yon and Silas early in the draft, the whole enemy team comp is gonna be built so that you can't play your champion, and we're gonna lose. Trust me, you need to pick up the champions that are being played right now that are mages, so we can pick them early in the draft, because we have problems with other roles that we need prio on, because like let's say how Blaber functions, he needs to play with lanes with prio, so you can't just play full scaling. And Fudge can give you prio, but he's not going to do well in team fights. So this is what I need from you. I need you to get good at this, because you are the player that can do this for me. And then he'd be like, nah, bro, like, nah. And I'm like, okay, well, go play Yon and Silas. And then the enemy team comp is like Gragas, Poppy, this, that. Of course,
Yeah,
0-2.
Maokai jungle,
And
all
I'm
this
like,
stuff.
well, yeah. And I'm like, well, like, we have a conversation. I give you my opinion. You don't want to do it, then go do whatever you want. Like, at that point, if you're going to be playing a Karma or something, you're just going to run it down. So you might as well just have the best game of your life and play Silas. And if you do, then we will win.
Yeah, I can see it.
So that's kind of how it went with Jojo. So I guess like after we lost, he was like, I miss Mithy, but 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 like it just comes and goes, I'll have my opinion on certain things, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Like I think I was forcing Renekton a lot for Fudge, I think, at the time, and the people were like, oh my god, like one more Renekton game, like oh my freaking god. But it's just like this is what we need to do, in my belief, for our systems, for like the other players to be empowered.
Oh, you said systems,
And
man. That's the
like
buzzword.
for yeah, well, in our, okay, not systems, like for like, I need this champion to be picked so that the profiles of other players get enhanced, so that we can make a good so that everyone can have a good game based on this champion, and like I try to create situations like that, and then like maybe we not agree, or like they wouldn't play the champion well, and it was disastrous. And sometimes you just kind of have to like make the right mix, and I wouldn't make it. Yeah, draft is not like, you know, you put 5 champions on paper and you just fight them against each other. That's
Oh, you
not how
should
it
have.
works, you know.
Yeah, you should have seen the thing that Yamato and I were laughing at earlier today. We saw this Hanwha Life T1 game 5, right? And then after the game, like there was like a fan's post that kind of like blew up in a community that I won't talk about. That's like, oh, you know, like why did T1 not draft Tom Kench top, Skarner, Rise mid, like and then just have like Draven and Soraka? It would be much more like defensive. And it's like, do you realize that these champions are being picked like 1 at a time or like 2 at a time, and there's like bans and stuff? It's like they literally just took like a draft and they're like, all right, let's create the perfect draft into it. Oh, that works. It's like it's like things are being picked 1 at a time. So yeah, I know a
And
lot of times the
yeah,
perception
it's
of
not easy. It's like what you're practicing makes a big difference, because if you're focused on your champion while you're playing the game, then you're not focused on how to create space or how to, like, for your teammates to, or what your job is in the game. It's not like, it's not natural for you, so you're gonna lose your position in a competitive game. That is important. And then macro as well, like you're not gonna make the right choices because you're spending too much time focusing on your champion. So that's one thing that happens very often to professionals. And then the other, like, unless you're playing in low, like if you're playing in low and everyone just like clicks 10 circles away from your actual circle, then it's fine. But like if the enemy is always contesting your, you know, your like your space, like your circle, like you know, you're constantly spacing someone and like, you know, trying to dodge spells, hit spells, and like you have like this threat at all times with you, it's a lot harder to think when all of that is happening, unless you're like very comfortable. So that's a big thing. And then yeah, like so it's like a little bit of everything. I mean, the T1 comp didn't make sense, to be fair. Like they
Yeah.
but like that's from a team comp point of view. Like the champions didn't
course.
help each other.
I mean, you guys have to think about it more through like the lens of the problem that T1 has starts like in the ban phase, like, right? Like they have to ban Yone every single game on both sides. That's something that they can't play. So that means that they don't have the ability to ban everything that they want to ban, which would include Kalista and Skarner. So they have to do a trade. And then like there's also a limit on AD carries. Like that's like the main thing is like there's only a few AD carries that you are willing to play into Draven or into Kalista first pick. So like Draven is pretty much the only thing up that you're trying to play it with, but then you don't want to counterpick the Renata with Engage. Like you don't want to pick Rel into Renata, even though like I think that probably was the right pick. You don't want to pick that thematically, so you end up with the Soraka, which thematically counters Renata, and you just end up like going down this rabbit hole. And at the end, the comp doesn't make sense, but you can see why they got there.
Yeah. So the logic is like, and that's what happens a lot in the drafts, right? Is like you have like a structure of like what you wanted to do. Like it's pretty clear. Like for like we're talking about the last game, so I'm just gonna talk about that. So it's like,
yeah, sure.
Draven. It was a Draven like Skarner Kalista trade, and then they would take Draven Soraka Skarner, which by the way is like actually like pretty good combo. Like, you know, the ult into the E. So it makes some sense, right? Like that combo makes sense. It's just in the 4-5 they needed like for Soraka to work with a tank jungler, it needs one, like especially Skarner, they need like one more frontline playmaking person to give enough space to the rest of the team. And then they picked Zoe, which is useless. And then they picked that's just a useless champion, like straight up. And then it's like very hard to make it work, like in the current meta, current situation, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just
the problem.
useless. You can watch the fights; it doesn't do anything. And then the other thing is like they didn't have another guy that went in front, and I think they saw Olaf or something, and then they were like, "Oh fuck! Like we can't pick like a
Like
tank
it would
a
be like
frontliner."
Gragas or something here. Like this would probably be the
Yeah,
pick. It's like Gragas.
yeah, they need something like that, you know. And then it's like we can't pick it because we're gonna lose or something. Like we're gonna lose the lanes, and then that's where the problem kind of like structured is. Like when they got out of the early game and they started fighting, it's just like who does anything, and then it's Skarner looks like he's like the worst player in
Yeah,
the world,
it's
right? But this
impossible to
is
play
like
Skarner this game. It's
and it's
impossible to play Skarner.
you know it, right? So it's like
Of
that's
course,
what's happening. Like he's not the worst player in the game.
he can't play.
It's just the team comp needs to make sense, and you need to empower certain things, and then on top of that you need to think about the profiles of the players. Like, is this trade even worth it that we had to put our, like you were saying, that you had to put our support carrier on a Soraka? maybe we should have just picked Rel, prayed for a lane swap, and gotten aggressive on other roles, you know. So it's like it goes both. Like you have to like go
Of
about it
course.
in
Yeah,
different ways.
I think
Yeah.
that was I think that's the most frustrating part about like doing this fearless draft is like I think people they're not used to it. So when they give their suggestions, it's like I think that's why a lot of times you'll see people index really heavily into like one specific areas, because when you go into 4 or 5, like the fourth game and the fifth game of a best of 5, and a lot of these like core champions that are used to break certain team comps are out, a lot of different champions just become OP. You know, like for example, I've been watching games where like there was one game that I really liked where they just went like Camille Sejuani 1-2 on red side, and people are like, oh, this looks so good. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's good when like Renekton's out and Jax is out and Bessa is out and Cassante is out and every top laner in the game is out, and suddenly you go Camille and it has just no counters and you can fully index into it, and you know that you just don't have the ability to counterplay. Like there aren't the champions in the game left that can actually like counterplay this level of dive. So I mean, I think that's where Fearless becomes really interesting to me watching, is being able to like determine like what is going to actually become OP. Because normally in a game, like you'll be able to kind of structure your comp, but I feel like there's kind of limits to the amount of champions that people are willing to play that will actually thematically alter a comp to like that degree. So yeah, I mean that's for example why I really like the Olaf pick from Hanwha Life.
It's
I just
really,
thought
really good.
this Olaf pick, you're playing it into Draven, Soraka, Skarner, so it's like none of those champions do anything to the Olaf, and then the champions that could make it hard for the Olaf's life don't fit in T1's comp. So I actually feel like that's kind of checkmate from Hanwha Life when they drop the Olaf there. It's like I don't really think like they have a pick that they're going to be willing to play that would work, because yeah, I mean they could pick something like the Gragas, they could pick something like a frontliner like Ornn or Sion or something like that.
Which is it's not even great, I think, against Olaf. But yeah, like the point is like, yes, the Olaf pick was very good, and T1 had the option of trying to counter it and make the comp don't make sense, or just accept that like that fucking sucks and we just have to make our comp make sense, so that if we do get to a team fight, like we're gonna be able to like play our like all of our champions will be like working well together, and that will hopefully take us over the finish line. And they didn't do that. They chose the first option, and then all the champs were useless. So you know, like that. So in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah. In hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, they should have done this and that. But like, what if they just won every lane? Then what? Then we would have ended the game anyway, because like at that point, comp doesn't matter. That's another thing. It's like,
if this Akali has Ignite or something and then solo kills the Olaf like 4 times in a row top lane, people will be like, what the fuck, blind pick Olaf? Like this guy is a dumbass. Why did he blind pick Olaf? You know, just go the other way instantly. So it is very like results oriented in that remark.
No, I can also just add, because it's funny how like in terms of how you build drafts, it's like you're band-aiding so much shit. Because it's like I always think back to 2022. It's like, Yamato, ban Yuumi. It's like, bro, if we ban Yuumi, we can't play Lulu into Lucian Nami, and then they pick Lucian, and we are fucked more than you've ever seen. You know, so we have to play against Yuumi. It's just life. It's like, oh, this is our team. We are worse than you are seeing, because we've just picked Azir Lucian Nami for this long and gotten away with it. You know, it's fun.
I remember that. I remember that meta. It was not easy to play the Lulu matchup into Yuumi. Like it was just like very like that was when like I first started watching Ruffle Files, bro. Like if I didn't even have that, then like it's hard to even improve. Like the way some of these like I mean at the time it was like the Asian teams, like they were approaching some of these lanes like so systematically when it was Lulu Yuumi, and the Lulu was actually getting prio on the right timers and like, you know, taking all the objectives in the game, and then it was hard to. I remember the meta. Like I remember studying that shit forever. So
that was the one where it was like you had to like fight to the death at like level 1, right?
Sivir Yuumi, you had to owl in because you had summon advantage. Like we played 2v2 against Ruler Lehens, and we just like our conclusion after maybe like 41v1 is like, we can't play Lulu. Like what Lehens is doing on Lulu, we can't replicate. It's not possible. So it's fucked. You know, he would just like space us.
At the same time, you also had Jack Troll as well, right? His profile was like.
No, the 2022 was Hilly and then Upset, right? Well, so 2022 was this.
Same shit though.
Yeah, you don't want Hilly playing Lulu.
yeah. So at the end of the day, you know, like if you really think down at it, it's like, okay, we're trying this. It's not really working, and I have Hilly-sang. So like if I would do the exact same thing you did, you know, I'd be like, we're gonna play into this other champion, and we're gonna play melee champions, and we're gonna make the game chaotic, and that's how we're gonna get our players on their best profiles. Bwipo and Healy, we're gonna make chaos into a Yumi, and that's our highest chance of winning. Like 100%, I will double down on that if I was you. So, you know, like
Dude,
that's
I
what I
have a
would do
perfect
too.
follow-up for you then, because it's like when I looked at the C9, right, of that year, the frustrating part from outside, once again, it's from outside. I don't have all these details in terms of what you need to band-aid. You mentioned a lot about how like the Renekton on Fudge and so forth. But I always felt it's like, oh, C9 seems to want to do so many different things that they get lost in the idea of like making a simple identity. Because to this day, I still think that loss against NRG is kind of like a fluke in a sense, because at the time, like Berserker was just performing out of his mind this year. If you think back to this criticism that I have, what would your reply be? You know, because I feel like just a lack of identity always.
I think that meta was like weird because it was very scaling. That meta, it just ended up being like whoever scales better wins kind of thing. And we were not able to play some of the matchup top that they were playing, so they had like an advantage there. I think the Rumble Jack situation, I think it was, or I think we played Rumble, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think it was like they just played like better scaling champs kind of thing, and they just ended up winning on stage. And I think mid wanted to. I mean, MNS wanted to win his lane a lot. I don't. I need to see the drafts. Like honestly, I kind of like blocked that from my mind. But yeah, it was something like that. And then I think they just started getting momentum in the series, and we just played worse and worse. But yeah, it was something like that. I also, like, you know, FBI at the time had never really played Zeri, so we were giving it to them because it was like it had just been played in the finals of LCK, but no one was playing it before really. So they were like not giving it to us, but we were giving it to them. And you know, I guess we like he was actually doing well on it. So like stuff like that. I think it was just like a mixture of different things that yeah, we just
Yeah, I mean,
didn't win.
it was pretty like interesting to watch because, for
If I
example,
bring up
like
the drafts, I can talk about it, but like I forgot. Like
I
yeah,
mean, I can screenshot the drafts if you want. You want me to screenshot them for you?
yeah. Show me. Yeah.
All right. Because I remember just contextually, one thing that was like really crazy was that they were playing. Oh, okay, yeah, Yamato's got them there. All right, boom. I don't know if those are easier
Can't
for you to
see.
see. If not, you can look at these. Actually, that's 2, 3, and 4. This is game 1. Kind of did it wrong order, but here you go.
I mean, game 1 we had better draft. I think we had the Kai'Sa Jace combo, and then the game 2 they had the Kai'Sa Jace, so they just won, right?
It was like the Gigapoke one, just for context for the viewers.
Yeah.
The OP Kaisa build. No, I just remember like a
Yeah.
huge thing was that people were saying before this, it's like, oh, like, you know, NRG doesn't play all these really OP champions, like Rumble, for example. These like couldn't play Rumble, and then on stage they just came out in that series and they're just playing all these things that people thought they couldn't play, and that really like warped how
Yeah, that's what definitely threw me off. And I think, yeah, like you see, game 2 was like we basically just traded Kai'Sa Jace and decided that Kai'Sa Jace was OP. And then game 3, I was like, okay, well, scaling is winning every game, so let's just pick Maokai Zeri, which is what we did, right? And then they just blinded Jax, and then we didn't have an answer to Jax because we were unwilling to play Renekton to get some, like Zeri Alistar loses, right? Bot.
yeah.
Alistar is very weak, and Maokai is losing to Sejuani, so we kind of need to have like a point of pressure in top lane so that we can fight some objectives, and then we picked Aatrox instead of
Yeah, and you need
instead
an
of
80
Renekton.
champion.
Yeah, we needed AD champion because with Tristana Jace was already banned, right? So then we picked Aatrox instead of Renekton because, you know, we had like, we don't want to play Renekton against Sejuani Jax because we're gonna get outscaled, but like the whole other comp is scaling. And then we also picked Ari instead of a mage as well. Like this draft would have been okay if we had a mage, but we picked Ari because I think MNS didn't want to play a mage in this game for some reason. I remember that. Yeah.
Okay.
So like the 4-5 didn't make any sense, and then it's like, yeah, our champs are useless, and Maokai can't fight anything at any point of the game, so we just get snowballed on. And then game 3, we had then we did the opposite. We were like, okay, so if we can't win with late game, then let's go early game, and then we just picked full early game, and then they just outscaled us and won, like in the last game. So they were just better.
Yeah. I mean, it also felt like they had a lot of momentum on the day. I remember like game 3, I felt like that one was the one that broke you guys, because that was the game where Berserker had like fucking 17 kills or something on Zeri. Like this guy was just completely 1v9.
Yeah.
He like borderline 1v5 them at a point. And
Yeah.
I think yeah.
But our champs were too useless. But then also the problem with this all of these drafts was this thing that Berserker just kept saying, because in LCK, so basically me and Sven were aligned, like we should play non-scaling ADs and mages like support, you know, like can't say racist champions anymore. It's like it's banned by Riot now, so it's like
Okay.
like, you know, aggressive champions in the bot lane, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you know, like how Keria is playing like Pyke and LeBlanc and shit like that, you know. So Sven had his kind of champions like Lulu and Yumi and well, not Yumi, but you know what I mean, like those kind of champions, like just kind of getting an edge that way. Like I think at the time we had like Varus Heimerdinger and stuff with Sven. And Berserker was like refusing to play that. He wanted to play what he's good at, you know, Kai'Sa, Seri, but that made Jesper play Alistar and Rel and stuff. And he is in his second year as a pro support, so you want to enable him and let your veteran kind of like you know, like for the profile to work well, it should be the other way around, because it's easier for Berserker to play the other champions than it is for Jesper. But so that didn't work, and I think that also was giving us a problem, because the best would for us, our team, and that's how we were doing better at the beginning, is like when our bot lane has the prio, that leaves our top laner to play the scaling stuff that can tank and like be better in team fights. So I think that we lost our identity with the patches as well. Yeah.
I wanted to have you compare Blaber and Inspired, because these are probably the two best junglers still in the LTA region. Maybe River's up there now. Definitely not Umpty. Yeah, definitely not Umpty. After what he's been doing, Jesus. I can't really focus on that. So you've worked with both these guys. These guys are both insane junglers, but they're different. Well, how would you compare Blaber and Inspired, having worked with them both and, you know, seen them play over the years?
Like personality or like in game?
Yeah, I mean, whatever comes to mind, literally whatever you find to be the most interesting.
Okay. So I think I think Inspired is very a lot more aware of what's going on, it seems, within the games, like the structure of the games and like the win conditions. I think from like, you know, I don't know how Blaber's doing right now, but like that's kind of how I feel. So he's a lot more like just focused on having like a good structured game, like is like very methodical. And Blaber, he wants to like he plays more on feeling, like he feels like we need to fight this, or he feels like we you know, we need to do this now, and then he'll do it. And the good thing about Blaber is he does that on stage, and sometimes it catches people off guard. They're like, what the fuck, they're fighting here? And then they win the fight, you know. So that's like a big strength that Blaber has, as well as a weakness. So sometimes it's good to empower that. But yeah, I think that's like the main difference between both of them. I do think when like in certain metas and stuff, like Inspired has been able to play more champions, and like just being more consistent overall based on, you know, as well like how methodical he is. And yeah, he has very good mechanics. Blaber is like, you know, he's more on the engage side for the most part. He prefers that.
Yep.
But I mean, he like, you know, if he has a good game, like he's like more like engage / farm. I think Blaber is like engage / farm. Like if he's playing Nidalee or something, he'll do pretty good at that too. And then Casper is more like positioning / farm, I guess. Is like more about like he can engage and stuff, but it's just more about like blocking the enemy engage, baiting them into their right areas. Like it's just more methodical, I guess. I don't know how to describe it very well. And then yeah, personality-wise, they both work pretty hard. I mean, I think Casper's been slacking this split, but
Okay.
yeah, nah, he cares a lot. I know that. So just trying to call him out in case he's watching, you know. And then yeah, I think they both like really care and they bring up a lot of good stuff for the team, you know. And yeah, I think yeah, I like how vocal Casper is when he doesn't like something. I like that.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I would say it's always funny to me when Blaber says I'm fine. Like, because I feel like he's the guy who in scrims, like there'll be like 4 people on him, and the first thing you'll hear is "I'm fine," and it's like he's never fine, and then he'll be like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
not fine," like, and he always just sounds like
Yeah.
so shocked, you know, like this is like the
Yeah.
Blaber classic, like 4 TPs on him, he's like 1v5 in the enemy jungle, I'm fine, and then it's just like you're really not, bro, you're really not. So Blaber is definitely a very aggressive player, but yeah, it's cool to work with somebody like that.
We played them. We played them this like last weekend or something, right? And we had this problem against him. Like he like when we were playing Ivern, like we were like much stronger in the river, and he just found like this like very niche angle on the Ivern.
Yeah.
Like as Wukong level 6, where like we had a Nautilus and we were telling the Nautilus, like the Ivern had Daisy up and everything, and he was like, we could face check everything. Like we had a Nautilus with like Giant's Belt, level 6, and we were like, yeah, let's just take over all the vision and just face check everything with Ivern Shield. And then he just kind of like sneaked in around the bush and got an angle on Ivern, and then they all collapsed, and it was like really insane. They won the game there, pretty much. Like they got a huge lead, and it's like, what the fuck did he just do? You know, but like if he had done that and the angle wouldn't have been there, then the whole game would have been lost. You know, and the angle was like really tight, and it was just more so about like Casper clicking one more time towards the ward when he didn't have to, kind of thing. So it's just like small things like that where it's just like, oh, he surprises you and he gets really good situations out of certain games, but like it can also be inconsistent in the wrong way. So I mean, I think he's been working on that for a while. So
yeah.
You know, on the topic of players and comparison, it's like you work with 2 very different versions of Bwipo, I imagine, because he went through, you know, it's like you worked with him 2020, and then now you work with Bwipo again. How can you what can you tell us about his growth and the challenges of working with Bwipo? Like he was so vocal about doing the fucking public scrims. I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on that too, but maybe I can ask that later. But how do you compare the Bwipos, and how has he changed for you?
I think he's like a little more vocal now. Like he's like
Damn.
more. I think he's like how to say, he's like more. Well, he understands that, you know, like when he's being too much and stuff. Like he's not like, you know, like that. It's just more so that he's more comfortable with himself now, I feel like, than before. So he is fine like being vocal and being like, am I being too much? Okay, whatever. Can you just tell me like you agree? Okay, I'm fine. You know, like and he'll like, you know, go complain or like, you know, talk to someone else and then come back and be like, actually my bad, or actually like we need to talk about this again. So he's like better at managing himself, I would say. In the games, I mean, he's always like a wild card. I think that's the best way to look at him. And like if you don't, then you're just gonna lose the good things of him. He plays on feeling, which is not very good. But because, for example, like I said with Casper, he is more methodical, it is good to have him, you know, empower Casper as well. You know, like sometimes no one wanna fight. Bwipo's like, what the fuck, guys? They're looking at me weird? No way. You know, and then it will go in, you know. So there is that, you know, like that balance, and that's very good. And we try to empower that as well, you know, be like, you know, like just do you, because it helps our team. Even if you're having games where you're like inting, you know, a lot of it as well is like the form of a team. Sometimes, you know, like for example on Blaber's situation, like if the team like the Blaber is in good form and he's in good form, all of his I feel good about this play is gonna work out and they're gonna be really good. And it's the same for us, If Bwipo is feeling good and our team is feeling good, all of those feel good plays are gonna work out, and he's gonna empower the whole team. But if it's not, then it's fucked. But it's fucked either way, so might as well. So
Perfect.
that's kind of how we look at it. In that sense. And then like his champion pool is like he doesn't play what
It's
every
funny.
Korean plays.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, he doesn't play what every Korean plays, which is good at times, and at times it's not so good. But we also try to make the best out of him, and have someone else help with that as well. Like in our team, like we have our own ways of looking at those things as well. So yeah.
Do you think a player profile like that is necessary in a team? Because it's like now how you describe Blaber. Because at least in my experience, it's like usually that's what I seek out to and enable, like the Zook in the past, or like Ilya, someone as well. There's definitely like a player on field because it's almost impossible to teach that. It's just about like the hours you spend, in the ring, kind of. It's like how you swing and how you kind of feel and how you dodge. Do you feel like a profile like this is necessary with the times when maybe you didn't have a profile like this that you can recall in your career?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it's just about having a good balance. I think that's what it is, really. If you have like half the team leaning one side and then half the team leaning the other side, then maybe that's a good balance. Maybe you need more players on one side, more players the other side. Maybe everyone is like methodical, and like that's also going to work because they're going to all understand each other and know when to fight and how to make that work. So I think it just really depends on the team and like the champions and the patch and how the game is. Depends on like look at 100 Thieves right now. Like last year, everyone was joking that they fight everything no matter what, and now this year they're fighting everything no matter what and winning every fight. And the game is like you can't not fight, right? So it's like whoop-de-doo. They're the goats, 100 goats, So
on the topic of like the game changing, it's like because you've had such a vast career. In terms of like keeping up with all of the game changes and always like having a very very sound mind, like that's a reputation. I know so too, right? It's like you're always very very in tune with like the best ideas in the game, and you can see it. How have you managed to keep up, and how have you kept on like improving yourself? Because bro, here you are, fucking 12 years later, still, being a part of one of the best teams in North America.
I think it's just watching. Watching like it's our job, and like I said at the beginning of of this thing, like I'm a very competitive person. I want to win. So I will try to learn and do better. I assume that if I do the same as the year before, then someone else is gonna catch up to me. So I always gonna keep trying, keep improving, keep doing better. Like whether it's this or it's life, like you always want to like get that 1% extra at all times, and that's what I look out for in all cases. But a lot of it's just about finding patterns as well. Like a lot of the experience that me and Nuke have is, and Arrow is like helping as well. Like sometimes new champion gets buffed and it's just like, dude, I played that champion. This is how we did it back then. This is what I had troubles with back then. When I was playing that champion, this is actually, it looks like it's an angle, but it's not really an angle of like this champion, like Tam Kench, Brown, whatever my champions were, and Nuke will do the same with mid, so sometimes that's also a positive. I do think like it's just a little bit of everything, what like it gets harder and harder. I feel like to not to like to connect from on an individual level. Like I do see the players now, and like the game is too fast for me. Like clicking and thinking and timers and this and that. Whereas before it was like very natural, But I just don't play enough now, so
It seems like
it happens.
the windows in terms of when you can and cannot do things are so much tighter. It's like in the past it was like, oh, they are topside, I shouldn't be aggressive topside. Now it's like, oh, I saw them 12 seconds ago, they're going to push it towards me. I'm playing 1v3 here. I can actually play with my champion, steal this wave, jump out. I need
Yeah,
to push her on the enemy, get information, because it kind of scatters into everything else.
yeah,
It's like every like player needs to be active in ideas. Because I feel like in the past it
yeah,
was like you could play in a way where it's like, oh, we're playing towards bot side, we're playing 2 lanes, very easy, it was very simple. And it's like, oh, the enemy doesn't know what they're doing, we're winning. But now it's like, bro, everyone kind of needs to be understanding
Yeah,
where they're clicking.
everyone's like what do you call it? Squeezing. Everyone's
Yes.
it's less yes and no and more like what if, where can I draw my line and
Yep.
how can I put pressure? So that's a lot harder for me now to look at. I mean, I try to I understand it and I try to help the guys as well with that. But a lot of the times that's the part where I'm like not very good at anymore. Like if you were to put like a new a new coach or something like a old pro player to watch someone of these guys play, like I'm sure they can help them squeeze harder. But for me now I'm like more focused on like more pattern recognition and like bigger picture things, and I just hope that the guys are helping each other squeeze harder and also just helping them sometimes apply a little bit of game theory where it's just like how much do you really want to squeeze when we're up 10k gold kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
you really need to put yourself at risk even if the risk is 1%.
It's
Yeah,
also
so that's where I'm at right now.
it also gets so weird sometimes. It's like I realize now it's like reviewing, like even with Roddy Sack, it's like sometimes it's like the idea becomes so abstract because it's like, yo, if they do this, I want you to do this, and like you need to pay attention to this detail, this information, because if they did this, you couldn't do this, and they're like, what the fuck are you even talking about? It's like becomes so abstract because kind of I reference it back to what you mentioned before. I don't know if it ties in, but you mentioned it's like when you joined Fnatic, you didn't like that there was no one that like fucking pointed fingers because he's like in the game. Do you think that still rings true that you need to have like the players actually like giving that feedback to each other?
100%, dude. Like that, no good team will ever function if you're not having the players coach each other. It's just impossible, like literally impossible. You need that from each other. Otherwise, you can't play at a high level. It's just not possible. It is a thing. Guaranteed.
Agreed.
You can definitely see it. Every team needs a European. They need somebody who doesn't give a fuck. Just will come in there and just call people out, say they're full of shit.
But sometimes like for league stuff, right? Like you're saying, it becomes abstract. Sometimes what we try to do as well is like as much as it becomes abstract, sometimes it's just about like, dude, like you're playing the game and you are not perfect. So if something doesn't go right, like if your team doesn't go top when you want him to go top and now he's mid, then just like play together with the wrong idea. Like just build it together. Sometimes a player has like an idea in mind, it's wrong or like it's suboptimal, one would say, because like at the end of the day it's like about optimizing, right? So they have a suboptimal idea and then like the trade might not be that good, but if you commit to their idea because there's no other way, like if you try to salvage it, it's even worse, then you commit to it, you might actually get a better result than, well, you will get a better result than if you are like, nah, you should have gone top here, this is so bad now, what the fuck do we do? So sometimes it's also about like pushing like just simple things, like to the most basic level is like, we're doing dragon and we're diving bot at the same time. It's like, dude, don't dive bot, just go fucking hit the dragon. Next time he should have come to dive and not do the dragon. But if you guys are doing two things at once and then the enemy is like ganking you guys or stealing the dragon because you're not covering it, like it's fucked. So like simple stuff like that is like what we also try to coach, right?
Yeah. It's such a always. It's like the principles of the game are always like reappearing the same way for people and teams. It's like one play at a time, play for tempo. It's like all of these things. And then it's like a lot of the fight is players justifying them breaking the principle. And it's like, but it's like somewhere in between. It's like breaking the rules. There are opportunities there, so it's like it's a tricky thing to navigate. I wanted to follow up, Mithy, because like a big change for FlyQuest, I think the biggest one is like Quad. Of course, came in for Jensen, but the biggest change for me was like I didn't think like supports in North America really played the game in comparison to Code JJ, and now in the conversation of like how to give players ideas and so forth, it's like Busio just seemed to be a completely different player. Like he never was on dives, never was kept up in the game. He was kind of support that just hit the wave and didn't know what the fuck to do before you came into the team. What can you tell us about his development, your impact on that, and how it is to work with Busio? Because now he's fucking legit, you know, he's playing the game, he's doing all the right things.
Dude, it's like having the how do you say it? It's like the younger brother I never had. You know what I mean? It's like the guy that you can be like, dude, like I made this mistake, I made this mistake, I made this mistake, this mistake. Don't fuck it up. Don't do all of that stuff. And he's just there like, okay, okay, okay. So he's just such a good kid, man. Like he like I have a lot of flaws, and I definitely like when I bring stuff up, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying, but I have ideas. The best part is I have ideas. I know that, and I think he does a very good job at wrestling with them ideas and not feeling like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm just gonna stick to my own thing. But just like he like helped me guide him, and then he's just like super talented. You know, works super hard, fantastic player. But like the main thing that I think pushed him like to improve so much is that he enabled me, I would say, to help him by just being himself, obviously, but like in a good way, you know. So I feel very comfortable talking to him about stuff and like working stuff up with him, and then enabling as well, like together with Nuke, like what his strengths are at the same time, so he maybe looks better in some cases because of it.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting pretty close to the end. I think we normally wrap around this time. There's one last thing that I need to ask you about, because there's a story that's been told on Sackdown like 4 different ways involving you, and this is the famous restaurant story. 3 different ways. Now it will be 4 now with you. So this is the famous restaurant story, and actually might be, we might have heard it 4 different ways. Anyways, the restaurant story where you guys were in a restaurant in Iceland, and this is right before you played Genji, and apparently you and Vulcan got into it over you overly glazing ruler. Like you were like, oh, we need to ban this and that, and you know, like, and Vulcan felt attacked because it's like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
oh, well, let's just fucking ban every champion in the game then. Like, I guess we just can't fucking play the game because he's so much better at everything. We've heard like it was a big deal. We've heard it's not a big deal. Blaber was like, I thought the team was gonna disband. Like, I thought these guys were gonna kill each other. Sven was like, like apparently Sven wasn't there, and then Perks was like just eating his like creme brulee or something, and he just thought it was normal. And then Vulcan was like, honestly, I don't even remember it being like that big of a deal. Like, did I even raise my voice? Like, and then what Vulcan ended up saying is that one feedback he got from Blaber is that sometimes he didn't seem to like realize when he was talking really loudly. So tell us about this this story, the infamous restaurant blow up over overly glazing ruler. What happened here?
Yeah. Okay. So my touch on the player ego was not there. So I had watched all of, like, we were playing Genji for a series, right? We're playing a best of 5. We need to win. There's no losing.
Quarterfinals,
right? We're out if we quarterfinals. And I watched the games, and I objectively see that my bot lane is absolutely gapped, and we are not going to win. That is the truth, right? That doesn't mean we cannot win. It just means that we cannot win if we just play the game. So I tell him what the situation is and what I have encountered objectively. I just told him that.
No flame. Like I do this in solo queue too. I just tell my teammates like guys, you're just a lot worse than them. Like in every single way. Like just don't take offense to it. You know, you're just objectively just
but
significantly
this is not in the but this is not in the moment. This is like we are prepping, right? So this is so it's not in the moment that I'm telling him like you guys suck. Like it's just like before we play, I'm like, hey, like if we play the matchups that are being played at Worlds, the matchups that they want to play, if we give this guy a Aphelios and you guys play your whatever matchup you're normally playing, we like it's just not gonna work. Like I know for a fact it's not gonna work. So I don't think we should do this. I think we should do something else. And then I think it just like hit the wrong nerve. And then so at that point I was like, the team was already like, it's Worlds quarterfinals, like there's a lot of baggage there. Like I don't know how to even explain it, Yamato. Like you can.
I was in Iceland with you guys. I was playing board games with you guys. So
no, there's a lot of baggage. Yeah. So yeah, no, like he snapped at me like, oh, do whatever the fuck you want, you know, like whatever. This guy's like, something like that. I don't even remember, so I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he snapped at me, and then I snapped back at him. Because what I
Okay.
was hoping for was that it would just be like, yeah, okay, let's figure it out then. Like, what can we do? You know? But like I didn't, so at the time I was, so I just snapped back at him, and then it just got worse. And then in the end, we actually ended up doing that. Like, I don't know if you saw the game, but like he got Aphelios, and we had Ziggs Malphite Yasuo to try and
Yeah.
fuck him, and we nearly won. Just Perks just ran it down at the end. But like that game is still there. You guys can watch it. But yeah, like that's what we did, and we nearly won game one. And maybe that would have done something, but like that was our plan. And it's similar to what happened with Genji last year, or what we did with Top Esports the year before, like with Bwipo, where like he was playing Singed in a world stage game and won, by the way. So
Yep.
sometimes you gotta do stuff like that because you're giving them their best and then like making a plan for that, or you have to remove everything and then figure it out from there. And it was like we just had to figure something out. And yeah, that's kind of how it was from my side. I just went in there. I was like, dude, like this is what's going on. Let's figure it out. And he snapped, and I was like, I'm fucking tired of people snapping at me. I'm gonna snap back. And then it just like, yeah.
Interesting. Now we've gotten to the bottom of it. We've had 4 different segments on 4 different shows now, hitting it from all different sides.
We need to invite the waiter, the hotel
we gotta
lobby.
we finally got to the bottom of it. Nah, I just thought it was funny because like a lot of what Blaber was saying about joining that team is, when he started working with you, Perks, Sven, in that team, that he was just like not ready for the amount of like honest feedback that you guys would have. Like he would just like, at that point he would just feel like scared or like offended. He's like, oh fuck, like Sven is yelling at me. This guy is 6'7". He's like, when Sven starts getting mad, his face starts getting red and shit. You're like, what the fuck is going on here, bro? Is this guy like gonna kill me? Like he had this type of mentality. And then over time, he's like, oh no, he just like wants the team to improve. So we just got to hear all these stories, and now we've gotten to the bottom of the restaurant C9 blub. And yeah, the team did not disband there. You guys waited like like a week or something until after the tournament too.
But yeah, no,
disband.
I think it happens in a lot of teams. I think people forget that at the end of the day, everyone's trying to win. And people forget that there's that same like everyone has that, like you need to have that faith in the person next to you, at all times. And when you lose that, it's fucked. If you think that there's like a scheme or like a certain different thing, or like you don't think that person's trying to win and they're just doing this for that or that, then it's fucked. But if you do think like at the end of the day, whatever feedback comes your way, the person is just trying to win, then you can get to the bottom of things and you can actually, build on stuff. So
yeah, makes sense. All right,
well, that's I forgot that he was just upset, nervous about the game, and trying to win the same way I was, and then we just snapped at each other, basically.
Yeah. It's a good note to end on. I like the message. So that has been the end of the episode. That is episode 25 of the Sackdown. We'll be back next week with another banger.